From its beginning, the sport of rodeo has been an exciting and rough contest between man and animal. For generations, the men and women who compete have taken their knocks. It's how it was then, and it's how it is now. The Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, along with the National High School Rodeo Association, strongly encourage you to exercise good safety practices. This will prevent injuries and prolong your rodeo career. We've called on some highly qualified world champions, along with professional pickup men and bullfighters, to share with you some things that perhaps can help you avoid getting into wrecks. But if you do, it will help you get out in one piece. Pay close attention to what they have to say, and always put it into practice.
We're here at Omaha, Nebraska, and here in the locker room before we ride, we're just going to go over some tips, going to go through our equipment, give you a little short version of what we ride with. Start with, this is a Barstow bareback rigging. Has a rawhide handle. As you can see, we've put leather underneath the handle to fit it just to the exact specs of my hand size. Leather latigos. Has a leather covered closed cell foam pad with skirting leather on the top to protect, distribute the pressure from the bars so that they don't pinch into the horse's back. One of the common mistakes I see at schools is guys don't pay enough attention to this rigging body pad, and it'll pinch horses' backs and makes it hard to pull your rigging because your D-rings sink into it. This one here is cut out in such a way that you can run your latigos through after you pull your rigging. This is our cinch that we ride with. I prefer a string or a mohair cinch. There's also a neoprene cinch if you choose. I tape my pad onto my rigging, but I don't tape it on where it's tight. I tape it on where it can move around if need be. The next thing that would go with this would be our glove. It's just that, you know, you can buy them where they're set up, where they have what's called a palm piece. It's a thin piece of leather that's glued on the inside of the palm here. Each rider customizes his glove just to fit it to his hand specifically. It has padding in the knuckle. We use this leather here to tie it on. You don't want your glove to pull off when you put it in your rigging and you're riding, so we use this to tie it on. You'll see guys, you know, they put the one in their mouth and they tie it on. That's what they're doing. And so when it comes to the point that we're going to put our hand in the rigging, I don't like it where it's too tight. I like it where it'll go in easy, about like that. I put it in about that far. There's no advantage to putting it in much further past this seam, because when you close your hand and crack it back around, that's where it's going to end up anyways. I don't really want to get a great big bubble in there. I would prefer to be able just to hold on to my rigging instead of having it hold on to me. So after you've closed your fingers, you crack it back. Right there, this line that your hand makes from your hand to your elbow should be at a natural line right over your hip. I don't want it like this where it's going over my thigh, and I don't want it where it cracks around too straight either. You don't have so much leverage. So this is how you run your hand and your rigging when you're in the buck and shoot. At the end of the ride, when you double grab, you're going to grab a hold of the front of your rigging handle. You're going to drop your elbow. You're going to crack your hand out like that, and then that'll be your shot to get off on the pickup man. A common mistake I see at the schools is kids will go to scramble to get off on the pickup man. They won't have their hand out. So as soon as you double grab, you want to get your hand broke loose so that you can get off as soon as your shot comes. All right, now we're to the point where I've put on my riding pants. I like to change into a pair of pants that I typically just ride in. They're a little looser. Otherwise, your pants that you wore the rodeo would get dirty anyways. Underneath, I've got compression shorts to kind of try to keep your groin and hamstring muscles tight, warm and compressed. Put a foam butt pad in there to protect your tailbone. So now it's time to put our boots on. I prefer a spur with a shank that drops slightly. The rowels, as you can see, they spin loose. I don't have the hole drilled out real big, but it's a big, dull 5-point rowel. One thing about when you put your spurs on your boots is you don't want your heel strap to have it so tight that there's no movement in your spur. I like to have a little bit of movement. Okay, so I've got my boots on. I'm gonna tighten my spurs up a couple holes. Even when they're tight, they still move. There's still some give, otherwise they're more prone to bounce when I set them in the horse's neck. And they've got these long leather boot ties here. The idea there is to, when you get a hold with your feet, you don't want your boots to obviously pull off of your feet. So there's a lot of different ways of doing it, but I go underneath my heel, behind my leg, back around in front, and then I try to tie them on as low around my ankle as I can. I don't want it so tight that it's gonna cut the circulation off to my foot or anything, but I don't want them coming off. And I do always try to tie the knot in the front or on the side instead of on the inside or the back where it would get rub against the horse's back and get untied. So that's basically the way I tie my boots on. Now we've come to our riding chaps here. You know, chaps aren't necessary, but they do kind of go along with the event. Bareback riding chaps, particularly, you don't want them at a real heavy weight. Lighter is probably better. It's going to be more comfortable. When you put them on, there's no advantage to putting them on tight around your thighs. Might as well give yourself just a little bit of room, put them on fairly loose. When you pick your chaps out, it's a good idea to not have them where the fringe does any more than just touch the ground. That way you're not tripping on them or stumbling on them if you do need to run and get out of the way. As far as our vest goes, there's different styles of vests. The one I ride with is just padded in the back just to protect my back from the flank trip. There's also protective vests that have padding in the front as well. I don't prefer them just because I feel like they're too bulky in the front, but I think in high school rodeo, I think they're mandatory that you wear a protective vest, and they're a good idea. I've seen a lot of guys that have been stepped on and taken wrecks that if they didn't have a protective vest on, probably wouldn't have came out of it as well. Having quality equipment that's maintained is of the utmost importance. You know, I only usually ride with new stuff. Like my riggins, I ride for 60 to 80 horses probably at the most. You can ride a riggin longer than that, but when they get to the point where the handle is moving or wanting to twist or the body has too much give in it, then it's time to give it up. Same thing with latigos. When they start getting spots in them where they're narrow or thin, same thing, it's time to change them out. And like I explained before on the pad, if they get where they're broke down here where the bars hit the pad, time to also get a new pad. So, you know, I'm going to go put my money up. I'm riding against the best guys in the world on the best stock. And so whether I was at this level or a beginner, no sense in not giving yourself the benefit of the best equipment and make sure that it's maintained. And you know beforehand, before you go get on, you don't want to have maybe not run your hand in your rigging or not know about something about your equipment, and then you get in the buck and shoot and you panic. So I try to make sure that everything is exactly the way I want it before I head out there to the arena. The stock contractors loaded the bareback horses. I have identified which horse is mine. He's in the buck and shoot. We're going to put a neck rope on him first, both for his safety and for my safety. It's important that you have somebody that's knowledgeable in this area to do it. You don't want somebody trying to tie your horse in that isn't familiar with how to do it. So we're going to use this heavy rope, and the purpose of this is going to go around his neck and just be tied to one of the rails on the buck and shoot, preferably a little lower than his neck. The purpose of this is so that the horse can't rear up and smash you in the back of the buck and shoot. My horse is tied in the neck rope. I knew beforehand that my horse was a right-handed delivery, meaning he's going to turn out of the arena to the right. And so I have my cinch hung on my latigos on the gate side. So whatever delivery my horse is, whether he's right or left, I've got my cinch hung on the gate side. That way I'm able to drop the cinch down, set my rigging on his back, make sure that there isn't any mud or any burrs or anything on his back there where my rigging's gonna go. All right, so now I've dropped my cinch down on the gate side. I'm gonna reach through here with my hook and I'm gonna grab the D-ring of my cinch, making sure there's no twists in there. And I'm gonna run my latigo through my D-ring. This is something you can either do yourself or you can have one of your buddies on the back of the buck and chute help you do. When you initially hook your cinch and run your latigos through, it's a good idea to make sure that it's snug up against him and it's not hanging down, because if it's swinging around underneath there and it hits them and scares them and they kick through there, sometimes they can get a hind leg stuck in it. So I try to keep it up against his body in such a way that he's not going to be able to get a leg through there and it's not going to scare him. Now we're to the point that I've got my rigging set on the horse's back. The arena director said, you know, he's told me what out I am. It's time to start pulling my horse. And so there's two different ways you can do it. You can either have somebody stand on the gate, you can stand on the buck and chutes on the inside here and you can pull your rigging, or you can get on and pull it all yourself. And that's just personal preference. For safety's sake, I think today we'll just have somebody stand on the gate and have somebody stand on the inside of the buck and chutes. You know, a lot of our safety starts right here, knowing where to put our rigging and how to pull it. So my D-ring of my cinch is right behind the horse's shoulder, right as far up in his girth as I can get it. And the body of my rigging is behind the horse's shoulder blades, which you can feel right here. It's 4 to 5 inches behind the breaks of the horse's withers. And now I'm gonna start pulling my latigo a little bit from each side. If you pull too much from one side, then your handle is going to want to pull one way or the other. So I'm going to try to pull evenly. I got my help outside pulling. Once I'm about halfway pulled, I'm going to grab my D-ring and this loose hide, and I'm going to pull my rigging body back just a little more. And the whole purpose for this is so that my rigging will be tight and secure to the horse's back without any chance of it going over his withers or rolling down his side. So then I finish pulling. It's also a good idea while you're pulling your rigging for the horse to move his feet just a little bit, because a lot of times if the horse just stands there frozen and doesn't ever get to move his feet while you're pulling your rigging, then he'll be tense. You'll get a false reading on how tight your rigging really is, and then when you go to run your hand in your rigging, it'll either be too loose or a horse will be nervous and he might kind of come unwound while he's in the buck and chute. So it is important to let the horse move around. You try to keep him as relaxed as you can while you're pulling your rigging. Now I'm going to check it, and the idea is that I don't want it to feel like there's any way it could go over the horse's withers, which right now there's no way it can go over the horse's withers. It feels solid side to side. If you ever have any doubt, you can always pull it just a little bit tighter, because you want your rigging to stay on top of the horse's back. My rigging's pulled. The chute boss has told me that it's getting close to being my turn. So I'm gonna have my glove on and I'm ready, so that I don't want to be in a position where I'm hurried or panicked when they come to me and everybody's waiting on me, because it's easy to forget a step. When I climb over here, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step across. I know I've got adequate chute help to turn the horse out, meaning that when the gate comes open, someone here is gonna stand here and push the horse's head, not slap him, but as the gate comes open, push the horse's head so that he knows to go that direction and not this direction. So I've got my help. I step across the buck and chutes. I don't like to step on the horse's back. I wouldn't want somebody to step in the middle of my back with cowboy boots, and I don't think horses do either. So I step across the horse's back, and depending on which hand I ride with, the whole time I'm in the buck and chute, I want to be to that side. So for instance, I ride right-handed, I want to be to the right side of the horse's back. And the reason for that is if this horse is to rear in here and flip, say he gets out of his neck rope and he flips, and my rigging comes like this, I don't want my body or my wrist to be in between the horse and the back of the bucking chutes. So for that reason, you always want to stay into your hand. Okay, so now I'm going to slide down on the horse. The whole time my toes are forward so that I don't jab the horse with the spur accidentally when I'm getting on him. So I'm going to slide down here. I'm going to go ahead and sit on his back, but I've got my toes forward and my knees are up enough where if something happens, I can get up out of the way. You need to have enough distance away from your bareback rigging so that you can run your hand in, but you don't want to be sitting too far on the horse's butt, because if he kicks up, he doesn't have to kick up very far to throw you forward. Okay, so now I'm going to run my hand in the rigging the whole time. I'm into my hand. Now when I crack it back, I'm not going to try to make it real obvious to the horse, because he's done this before. He knows that it's about time to go anyways. And so I don't want him thinking, all right, the gate's going to come open and want to rear up. So at this point, I'm going to crack it back. Try to be smooth the whole time. Make sure that the horse's head is not looking in towards the bucking chutes, but looking straight, or at least just a little bit out. And then one of the common mistakes that kids make when they're starting out is they spend too much time right here. When they're ready and you run your hand in your rigging and you crack it back, if your horse is close to being good, go. Because when the gate comes open, they're going to turn out. You know, and it's easy to talk yourself out of making a good ride, or put yourself in a position where you're more likely to get hurt if you spend too much time in here. So I've cracked it back. I've got my feet up on the bucking chutes, and I'm going to slide up, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to have them open the gate. One thing that you want to make sure of, obviously, before you're at this point, is that you're familiar with the rules in your particular association. The PRCA rules and the National High School Rodeo Association rules would vary a little bit depending on the equipment that we ride with. And so you want to know that that all your stuff is legal, because it wouldn't be good to go to a rodeo, make a good ride, and then find out that you're riding with equipment that wasn't approved in your particular association. Okay, so now I've got my hand in my rigging. It's time to go. The one thing that you need to know is that as this horse starts to leave, you're going to reach up and you're going to spur him out. You're going to put your feet in front of his neck with your toes out. And so, because you're going to have your spurs in his neck, if the gate's not open or he doesn't know that he can turn out, he could come up. And so this is a matter of timing here. So when the horse starts to turn his head towards the outside of the arena and starts to make that move, not after he makes the move, but as he's making that move, is when I'm going to reach up and I'm going to spur him out. If the horse turns out backwards, meaning if he kicks his butt out this way and his head goes that way, I'm going to not spur him out. I'm going to stay in this position right here. I'm lifting on my rigging. I'm in a position where if he turns out backwards or whatever way, I'm not going to get my foot broken off in the bucking chute, and I can wait. The idea is that you want to wait to set your feet in his neck until he's going out into the arena. That's a big safety factor. All right, so I slide up there, I nod, they open the gate, and as he starts to turn, I reach up and I set my feet in his neck. All right, so now the whistle's blown. I drop my feet around his girth, I double grab, I drop my elbow, and I crack my hand out. Very important that you get your hand out of your rigging as soon as you double grab. Now I've got my hand cracked out, my horse is going towards the pickup man, and I want to be at this, right at this position right here, where the pickup man is just slightly in front of me. He's not too far wide, he's not too far back. And as he comes to me, I'm going to be ready, because sometimes you only get one shot. And if you miss that shot, then the horse gets to run around the arena like crazy, crashes fences, and it's a good way to get hurt. So we're moving along here. The pickup man is right in front of me. I'm going to reach out around behind him, and I'm going to push off on this horse's back I'm going to try to get up out of the way. And the pickup man is going to turn and get me out away from the horse. One common mistake is that guys will grab a hold of the pickup man right here and just let him drag him off. And if they've got a hold of his reins and everything else, he can't turn. And it's not uncommon at all that the bareback horse will kick right when you get off. And so if I'm right here, I'm a sitting duck if that horse kicks. So it's real important when you crack your hand out, you get off, you try to get up behind the pickup man and hang on around his waist or to his saddle and try to let him get you out of the way. That's the best way to get off safely.
Their biggest thing is when they make the whistle is to think about getting off. You know, bareback riders, you know, they need to get their hand out of their rigging and get ready to get off. You know, double grab, get ready to get off, and they need to think about that. Some of them get so excited, you ride in beside them and all of a sudden they start crawling off on you. They forget to take their hand out of their rigging. The biggest thing is to wait for a pickup man to get in position to pick you off, or pick them off, and listen to a pickup man. You know, when he tells you to wait, he means wait. The worst thing they can do, a bareback rider, is to get off in a corner. Because when you get off in a corner, you pick a guy off in the corner, the horse is turning, still kicking. When you turn out, you're right there. You need to wait. If a pickup man says wait out of the corner, you know, wait for the corner, that means just hang on for another couple jumps and it will be a lot safer for you. When you're on a straight stretch and you turn out, you take them away from the horse. So that's a basic thing. In fact, most pickup men shouldn't even go close to a guy in a corner unless he's having problems. Well, they need to stay on their feet if they can, and the sooner a hang-up is handled, the best, because the longer a hang-up goes, the worse it gets. If they can stay on their feet, pickup man will get a rope on that horse as quick as possible, and then you kind of when you do that, you want to kind of slow them down, turn them kind of into